All right, here we go. Welcome back, YouTubers. This is Inland Northwest Native News. My name is Jeff Ferguson. I'm your host. We got a whole lot of stuff this week for you. This is episode 6. We made it through the first 5. Things are going pretty good. We just hit 500 followers on our Facebook page. So keep sending your friends. If this is your first time tuning into this channel, be sure to click the red subscribe button down in the right-hand corner. Won't cost you a nickel. It'll allow you to keep up with us. And if you click on the little bell that appears, then you will also be notified every time we post a video. And right now we're putting up an episode about once a week. We're covering news and events for 11 tribes of the Inland Northwest, from the Colville Reservation to the Blackfeet on the east side, and from the Kootenai of Idaho all the way down to the Warm Springs and Umatilla down in Oregon, with everybody in between, the Colvilles, Kalispills, Spokanes, Coeur d'Alenes, Nez Perce, Salish, Kootenai, everybody in there. So there's quite a few of us out there, and we got a lot of things coming up this summer. So things are getting pretty excited. To give you a heads up of what we got coming up in this episode, we have an interview with Rocky Boy Colville filmmaker Derrick LaMere. He screened his film United by Water. If you remember last year, it played at the Garland Theater in Spokane and sold out. Well, he screened it at the University of Washington Intellectual House a little over a week ago, and we caught up with him over there and interviewed him and asked him about some of his upcoming projects and some feedback on the film and how things have been going. It's a real good interview, so be sure to check that out. We were also able to make it out to the COSSI project. We interviewed Spokane Tribal Chairwoman Carol Evans about the COSSI project, which is the really exciting project. It's the Children of the Sun Solar Initiative, and it was funded by Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo stepped up and kicked down $5 million to get that project off the ground and get things going. It's a real good story, a lot of good things coming out of it, but be sure to check that out. That took place out on the Spokane Indian Reservation last week. We also have a story about a podcast crew that's put together at Wellpinit High School. While we were out there, we cruised on by the high school and we caught up with Louise Brigman and Garrett Williams, and they're doing the Wellpinit Storytime podcast out of the Wellpinit High School a couple days a week. So we got to catch up with them, and when we were there, they had a special guest. Empy Corral was over there. If you've never heard her sing, we got her doing a little bit of vocals at the end of the video, so be sure to check that out. We also were able to make it out to the Native Project's 30th anniversary. Tony Lodge and the whole crew was all out there. They had all sorts of things going on. They brought in Longhorn Barbecue. We caught up with Joe Dressler. Joe kind of gave us a lowdown. We got a tour of the place. We were able to catch up with some other people out there, so be sure to check that out. Last but not least, we had the Spokane Falls Community College Red Nations Powwow. It was the first time, I think, in 3 years that it happened. So they were able to put things together. Good job to Vanessa and Chanto Pete. Pulled everybody together. They had Gabby up on the mic. Had some great drums playing out there. Some great dancers. Got some highlights from that. There'll be links to everything that I talk about, links to all the interviews and everything down in the description section below of the YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out. So, moving right along, we got a handful of stories, but we got a lot of good footage this week, so we're not gonna spend a whole lot of time. But I do want to thank you for tuning in once again. Again, this is about covering the news and events that you want to hear. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. If you think that we're covering too many powwows, if you think we're doing too many news items, if you think our stories are too long, if you think they're too short, if you want to see longer episodes, shorter episodes, let us know. We're on episode 6 right now. We really appreciate getting some feedback from you. So, without further ado, let's get going. Episode 6, the Confederated Tribes of Umatilla on the Indian Reservation down there on Thursday, May 18th. Governor Kate Brown signed HB 2625, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Bill, into law. Cola Thompson and BOT member Aaron Ashley attended the bill signing in the governor's office along with about 50 other people around the state. The bill, sponsored by Representative Tonish Sanchez, Senator Bill Hansel, and others, directs the state police to study how to increase criminal justice resources and systems for reporting, identification, investigation, and rapid response to cases of missing and murdered American women. So that puts Oregon on the map with us. Washington, if you remember a couple weeks back, Jay Inslee passed that bill. Before that, it was the state of Montana. A couple other states that are trying to put stuff together, so we're going to try to keep up on that. We also had, in Maine, on a national level, we had Governor Janet Mills on Thursday. This is back on May 16th, signed into law a controversial bill banning the use of Native American mascots in all state public schools. When the bill takes effect later this year, Maine will become the first state in the United States with such a ban. So you definitely want to look into that. Again, there's going to be links in the comment section below about this article. I'll read a little bit more of it and then move on. Surrounded by members of Maine's tribal communities, Thursday afternoon, roughly 2 months after the Skowhegan School Board voted to end its use of the state's last remaining Indians nickname at its local high school, the Democratic governor signed a bill barring any public school or university from using Native American mascots, names, and imagery. So this came out of Bangor, Maine, and this came out of the Bangor Daily News. So you want to check that out, May 16th. Again, there'll be links in the comment section below. Moving right along. First tribally affiliated medical school to change Indian country from a desert of primary care physicians to an oasis. This article is by Native Business Staff, May 18th, 2019. The Cherokee Nation has been plagued with many of the same problems as tribal nations across the United States, including struggling to attract sufficient numbers of primary care physicians. Some of our remote areas are hard to fill, said Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Bill John Baker during his keynote speech on Tuesday, May 14th at the Native Business Summit, hosted May 13th to the 15th at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So you definitely want to check out that article. Again, I'm going to leave that in the description below. Moving right along. House passes tribal casino bill 1 week after Trump urged GOP to oppose it. So this is by Felicia Sonmez in the Washington Post, and this came out May 15th. The House on Wednesday passed a bipartisan bill that would pave the way for a new Massachusetts tribal casino, 1 week after President Trump urged lawmakers to vote against the measure, which is opposed by a key White House ally. The bill, H.R. 312, passed on a 275 to 146 vote, with 47 Republicans crossing party lines to join all but 2 Democrats present in voting in favor. It would confirm the Mashpee Wampanoags tribe sovereignty over 321 acres of land, including the Taunton, Massachusetts site eyed for the casino project. So that's a cool article. You're going to want to check that one out. Again, it's going to be in the description below. Moving along, dozens of gray whales dying on the West Coast as they make their epic Alaskan migration. So this is really kind of a heartbreaking story I've been following. This one's out of USA Today, Elizabeth Weiss, out of San Francisco. At least 53 dead or dying gray whales have washed up on the West Coast beaches this spring, a death rate that has only been seen once before. The great mammals are starving to death, and scientists have theories as to why, but so far, no full explanation. The number of deaths is likely much higher because it's estimated that only 10% of dead whales actually end up on shore, said John Calambokidis, a research biologist with the nonprofit Cascadia Research in Olympia, Washington, who studies whale populations on the West Coast. That could mean as many as 530 whales have died, a large number for a population that is estimated to be just over 20,000, and that only began to rebound in recent decades after being hunted almost to extinction in the late 1800s. Wow, that's a powerful article. USA Today, again in the description below. So, on that very same topic, last week at the Garland Theater, screened for only the second time. I'm gonna highly recommend this. If you haven't heard about this film, if you haven't seen it, be sure to check it out. It's called Damned to Extinction, and it's primarily based on the Snake River Dam, but it talks about the impact not only on the salmon but also on the ecosystem and especially on the whales. Because of the massive salmon runs that have been dwindled along the Snake River and the Columbia, and going out into the Pacific Ocean, a lot of the whales are starving to death. So, and a lot of that's due to the dam. So if you haven't had a chance to check that film out, I would Google it. I'm going to leave a link to them in the comment or the description section below. I'm going to leave a link to that film, and you can check it out, find out when it's going to be playing in your area. They said it had only been screened twice, but it was very well done. They got some footage from a National Geographic videographer that was out on the water, that was shooting some of the whales, some amazing slow motion stuff. It's top notch, very well done, and I think the guys that were doing it did it for the right reasons. So you would definitely want to check that out. Moving right along. Couple find the largest ever intact Native American canoe dating back 1,000 years. That's awesome. They dug this sucker up. May 14th in Newsweek. Two people walking along a riverbank stumbled across an ancient Native American dugout canoe thought to be up to 1,000 years old. Robert Cornett and Gina Bradle noticed the 33-foot long craft sticking out of the mud on the Red River north of Shreveport, Louisiana 2 weeks ago. The canoe, which weighs some 1,000 pounds and is 3 foot wide, is thought to be the largest ever found intact in the United States. It was constructed 800 to 1,000 years ago by digging out a cypress stump, most likely by the Caddo Indians who settled in the area. This is in excellent condition, although one side of it is missing. The canoe had been taken to Texas A&M University, where a conservation process will begin that could take 2 years. So that's pretty cool. They found that out there, and they're going to go try to preserve it. So that's the stories that we have for this week. I kind of wanted to keep it short. There's some good stories. Again, the links will be in the description section below. I'm going to get into the powwow announcements, and then we're going to go right into the stories. We have coming up this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, we have Arrow Lakes Powwow out in Inchalim. If you haven't been out to that one, it's a beautiful site for a powwow, so you want to check that one out. There's also coming up Legends Powwow out at the Legends Casino, May 24th to the 26th in Toppenish, Washington. It's out on the Yakima Res. That's always a good powwow. If you haven't been out there, get ready for some good music, get ready for some good dancing. It's a great time. Lastly, but definitely not leastly, the Muckleshoot Veterans Powwow is coming up June 21st to the 23rd. Now, I know that's not Inland Northwest, but there's a lot of people from the Inland Northwest that go out and catch that powwow every year, so you see a lot of the people from this area out there. Apparently, there's some good money out there for dancers and singers and drums and all that good stuff. So if you're in the area, want to check that out. Got the opportunity to go down to that Muckleshoot Casino last year. I actually went out to their powwow grounds last year as well. They had a powwow I went to and was able to do some vending out there, and it was just beautiful. All real nice, grassy. The weather was great. The casino turned out real nice, real good food. It was really clean. I was real happy with it. It's a pretty neat facility. So I'm not going to totally plug away at the Muckleshoots, but man, they did a good job. Yeah. So speaking of that, we have a student from the Muckleshoot Tribal School in town in Spokane. She went to state representing the Muckleshoot Tribal School, and she's an amazing runner. She's running the 400, the 800, the 1600, and the 3200 races, and man, she was smoking. She went out there on the track with the red hand painted on her face for the missing and murdered Indigenous women on the first day, on Thursday, and then Friday she went out there and was running all day, not only with the red hand painted on her face, but she had the MMIW going down her leg. And man, what a proud feeling it was to just sit and witness this young athlete, Miss Fish, as her name, but she just is an amazing athlete, and she is just smoking them. I think she took second in one of 3 races that I saw. The other ones she won. So, but those are preliminaries. Really looking forward to seeing her run tomorrow. So hopefully I'll be able to get an interview, and we'll try to put that in maybe episode 7. So anyhow, yeah, all sorts of good stuff coming up. Again, if you've never tuned in, be sure to like it if you like the content. Subscribe down at the bottom. Please feel free to send any comments, any questions that you might have. Be happy to get those answered for you. If it's something that, if you have a story idea, or you think there's somebody significant from the Inland Northwest area, whether they're from these tribes in this area, or just residing here, or work with the people in this area, we'd love to get out and get some footage, get an interview with them, and find out what exciting things that they're doing in Indian country. This last week, AT&I was in Spokane, and I got to catch up with some people out there, man. So that'll be coming up. But let's get to these. Let's get to the video from this week. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Again, be sure to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. It's a great day to be Indigenous. Thanks again for joining us. Hope you like the videos.
So United by Water originally started out with John Zinzer. He was the canoe maker that assisted the tribes in building their own cedar dugout canoes. He invited me out to just document it. He had seen another film I had done for the Quinault out here about the canoe journeys, and he was like, you need to do that, but for your people. He knew I was Colville, we had friends in common. And he invited me out and just started doing little videos, and I noticed nobody was doing, so I just kept going. I asked for some assistance here and there from different tribes. Are you willing to, support this video? I didn't even know it was going to be a movie. I thought it was going to be like a video series, and everyone's like, thanks, but no thanks. Respectfully, they said no. But I just kept going. I knew it had to be done, and 10 months later, I was putting out videos, and UCUT had come back around, and they were like, we love what you're doing. Is there a way that we can have a partnership and maybe get our mission statement out, which was, for the benefit of all? So we started working together. The film started coming together really well, especially with our two backgrounds, them being nonprofit native company, and then myself just being an independent artist, guerrilla filmmaker. So we all came together. It was a tough road, but we all got together and made this film, and so far it's been in 20 plus festivals. We've got a tour internationally. Right now we have our DVD out, so we're kind of on our DVD release tour. And 100% of the proceeds go to the River Warrior Society, which is a nonprofit collective that they created for the canoe families, and the profits go to them. So I'm just out supporting that. I've been, taken care of by UCUT and other tribes and people that pay me to come out. But the DVD's out to support them, and the canoe journey's right around the corner. So, yeah, figured I'd get out and come out to Seattle and, enjoy this. Yeah, so the first time we screened it, we hadn't shown it in front of a big crowd. We had independently had shown it to some people that knew how films went, and we were really excited about it. But then when you show it, you see it. A lot of the times when you project it and see see and hear everything, there's little things you want to change. And UCUT got some ideas, I got some ideas, and we kept going back to the drawing board. And 1 year later, we officially were like, all right, we're getting DVDs out. As far as some other stuff that changed was there were some issues with Sherman Alexie. He had read some poems for us. He also voiced over the project. And when those things came about, I made a decision, and I made sure that UCUT knew how I felt about it. But we had replaced his voiceover work, the stuff I written, not his poems, but what I wrote. I had Shelley Boyd retell the story, and it worked out better. We were able to really hone in our message and write more and get a little bit more in depth, and it was meant so much more to have someone that was so integral to that process, along with her husband Jim Boyd's music. All of that came together, so it was just nice to be able to put a little final touch on a lot of those things and have it available for DVD now. I would say I probably submitted to anywhere between 20 and 40. We were accepted to at least 20. Some of them had reached out after a while when those things start building up, and I was proud of it, so I talked about it. UCUT, they're great producing partners, but they did not have the knowledge on how to produce it after that. Like, what do? You do festivals? So I was like, what? Let me take care of it. And, I did what I do, which is submit it, talk about it, make sure it's in, the public eye, and things just kind of cascaded from there. We posted a trailer overnight, and that thing had like 35,000 views, which is cool to me, but of course, like cat videos and stuff don't. You get like millions of views, but for 35,000 for us was really great. But then, just keep pushing on. There's a lot of no's, and it's really hard not to get, in your head about it, why they said no, or the politics, things like that. But everything was so positive in the way that film has reacted with people live. I just knew it, in some way, shape, or form, it would just keep going. And here I am, 2 years later, still showing it, touring around, able to help a lot of people, river warriors, and also some of the paddlers that were, see them grow. Like, a lot of my family members were going through a lot of stuff and then went on that paddle. They've grown to be, great artists, filmmakers, paddlers, protesters. yeah, so it's just wild to see. Like I said, I'm so happy to be able to come out and show it to different people, and it still have a life after, when I first started, which was just me. Yeah, so when we first did that, what's crazy is I spent all my time doing that film. I was immediately invited up to Canada that year in 2016 before Standing Rock. They invited me to go all the way up north Ontario and make a similar documentary about the first time that they had built a canoe in their community. And then after that, went through Standing Rock, and at that time, that was right as things were rising. But I think everything happened for a reason. Like us having that Kettle Falls trip, 76 years to the day since the last time we actually canoed up there. But to be able to do that, Standing Rock, the other films I was able to do, to see this stuff build up, I think this year's going to, last year I didn't do it, but this year I think is going to be like my return back and be able to go out there. And especially now that this film is directly giving back to those communities, I think, I'd love to support it any way I can. But yeah, I hope so. I think so. After this project, I put it out there that the only documentary I would probably want to do, because I needed a break. I was in the process of writing some projects, going into more narrative stuff. I said I wanted to tell the story of the Diehl decision, which is a case in our community of the 12 tribes of the Powwow Reservation. Our most northern tribe is called the Sinaiks, or the Arrow Lakes now. But we used to be a transboundary tribe, so we used to be recognized in Canada. And then as the world progresses, they were forced out of Canada and below the 49th parallel. Well, this decision is about this man that went up and shot an elk, went and did his traditional practices, his Aboriginal rights, practiced those in a land that calls him extinct. So it's about him and how this court case happened. We just recently won our court case, but it's just about that process. It really did just start with a man shooting an elk and then calling the police on himself. That's kind of how I understood it. And then when you meet this man, he was a game officer, and in 1989 he was a part of something similar to Standing Rock, but the 89 blockade that blocked a road that was going over grave sites in Canada. So, the more I dug into the Diehl decision, I saw these breadcrumbs that led to it. So now the documentary starts in 1989 with Rick Diehl, and it ends at the Diehl decision, which is happening. So that's my documentary. I'm working with the Colville tribes, and sorry, I'm babbling a little bit, but yeah. That's my new gig. It's almost done. We extended it till September because we had a positive decision with the courts a few days ago. So, yeah, so we're just continuing the project, making sure that we have everything we need and tell a full, complete story. Inland Northwest Native News, like and subscribe.
All right, so tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing out here.
Okay. For the WST thing, we just tell stories, talk about movies, games, and stuff we hear around our community.
Well, how long have you been doing it?
Since I think January.
And why do you think it's important?
So like people can hear our voices. So we're not just quiet and then won't be shy to get out there.
What so far you think has been the best subject or topic or show that you've done?
What is the Aquaman movie?
Did you have Aquaman on?
No.
Oh, okay. Tell me a little bit about that.
We just talked about how the actor Jason Momoa was great for the role of Aquaman. Because he mostly lived near water. It's perfect.
What'd you think about today's show?
Today's Show. I don't watch Today's Show.
Oh, the podcast.
That's good. I thought it was perfect.
All right. Cool. What about you? Tell me a little bit about your involvement.
So pretty much, I have background with audio production. I went to the Art Institute of Seattle for a little while. Then I lived out in LA. Did a lot of working with movies, doing background, and kind of in that I was doing acting and modeling out there. But coming back as a illustrator and artist, kind of getting out of that, I had all this audio equipment, and I knew that there was a need for having a voice for the youth and providing that, but I don't think there was really anything. They have a lot of great system here at the school, but getting them further and even more engaging. We see a lot of social media, and podcast is very self-efficient. It's like way different from being a radio station, and the kids could get out there on a more global scale rather than a local scale. So having the equipment, the right timing, the support of STN, the school, and great students and youth like Garrett here really helped out, and it's been very successful, and we've been able to see a lot of different studios in the local area, and that's what my passion. I want to inspire and help these youth understand that wherever they are here in Wellpinit, that they can go beyond out here and go and have a creative outlet, because there's a lot of sports players. Nothing wrong with sports is fun, but I'm not a sports player. I'm more of an artist, and that's what I just want to provide, is that artistic, and it keeps me busy, and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. So, what about you? What were your thoughts on the show today?
It's again. So, Lima and HHS Prevention reached out, wanted to do this video for one of their gonas. In the topic, it's supposed to be like a 3-minute video, but then they have a couple sophomores that took it on as their project as well. We missed that deadline, but we're still working on it as suicide awareness prevention. I will share that my cousin took his life pretty much Christmas Eve or on Christmas, and it was like a big blow, especially in my lifetime, having someone that close take their own lives. And so from all the different hardships being out here in Indian country, we need to talk about more, and like the podcast is one outlet that we can share and bring that out and have more discussions and talking, because it's important. The more we don't talk about it, the more we let it take control of us and hurt more of our people. As some of the youth were saying, that in 2015 the Spokane Tribe declared this as an emergency of suicide, and it's tragic, and it still affects and plagues us today. But I think we've come a long ways with more outlets of having voice and purpose, bringing culture and language back with that, and things like the podcast, and having much more support in the community, trying to figure out how we can connect youth, parents, the community all together to have this deeper discussion, which may come from, of course, like generational trauma and these other things that our ancestors went through, and maybe some of our parents or grandparents went through the schools and all that. So.
What do you like best about doing these podcasts?
That I get to talk about what I like and get to talk with new and other people I haven't met.
Sunshine shining down on me, I cherish every sunrise I see, and before I lay me down to sleep, I pray my soul, my Lord, to keep one more sunrise that I see. Hey oh, hey oh, hey, yo, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, ha, ha, way, oh, ho, hey, ho, hey, hey, oh, hi, oh, hi, oh, ho, hey, ho, hey, hi, oh, ho, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. That was it.
Take us out, Garrett.
Tune in next time for WST Podcast for more content. Yeah.
Inland Northwest Native News. Like and subscribe.
So we are here with Chairwoman Carol Evans of the Spokane Tribe, and we went out last week. The COSSI, the Children of the Sun Solar Initiative had their big, I guess you want to call it a shindig or gala, or I'm not sure what you would call it. What was that event? Can you
So
talk?
it was a celebration to celebrate the beginning of a lot of good things to come in the future in regards to solar. So installing solar on 28, 20, 29 units is a big thing for us because we have a sovereign power entity that is developing a renewable energy plan for the tribe, and part of that is Housing Authority engaging in getting funding to install solar panels on our houses on the Spokane Reservation and our government entities. And so just really exciting that we were able to get funding to do that, and as stated at the celebration by the Housing Authority Director, it all started with the fires, the tragic fires that we had. That actually the Cayuse Mountain Fire burned over 14 structures, including homes, and so it was really scary. Got close to the housing office, to our longhouse, a sacred place, and to our Wellpinit area. And just so as a result, we just decided we needed to do something, and they made the effort and got the funding, and now we're able to put the solar on, and it's going to help the government as well as the elder units. There's a lot of elders that are going to see the benefits of that. Just really exciting.
Yeah. So you said this is the beginning. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the other projects that are coming up?
Well, I think that as we continue, we would like to put solar. Well, our reservation is a good reservation for solar, and so we would like to see it on all of the homes that are good for solar power. And if we can help with that, whether it's training crews that can install solar units or whatever way, so that we can get all of the homes so that they become more independent and less dependent on having to pay high electric bills, because we have homes that live off electricity, and in the winter they can have anywhere from $300 to $600 a month payments. But if you get on solar, you can get in the program where it becomes more manageable and will really help the people that are on fixed incomes.
So that it was kind of an unusual project in a way, I thought, because it was funded by Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that's kind of really cool. I know that I got a chance to talk with Cora. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like working with them to get this done?
I just think that they're good partners. They're out there trying to help tribal nations, and so they were a good partner. And working with Grid Alternatives, who the funds went to from Wells Fargo, we actually worked with Grid Alternatives a couple years ago, and we've had a partnership with them in Sovereign Power, our enterprise. And so we did do some training and installed on units before, but it was only kind of a small project. And so just having that relationship, I think, was helpful in getting this project, this larger project. And so I think that having a shovel-ready program is what really resulted in our success. Is we've been working on this for several years, and just having something shovel ready really helped with Wells Fargo and Grid Alternatives and our relationship with them through Sovereign Power and the Housing Authority. Very proactive in trying to find ways to help the low-income housing, the tribal administration, and the government overall.
And we're out here today celebrating. Wells Fargo has helped out on this project substantially. Can you talk a little bit about maybe how you heard about the project and how things got going initially?
All right. I have been an active member of the Northwest Indian Housing Association. That's how I got to meet Tim Horan for many, many years ago. And when I became the National Tribal Philanthropy Leader, I lead the deployment of the Native Community Builder Grant Program, which is $50 million for 5 years. One of the first grants that we gave in the first year in 2018 was a $5 million grant to Grid Alternatives for tribal solar installation as well as workforce development. And the very first tribe that they identified to re-grant funding to was Spokane Indian Housing Authority. Why? Because they're shovel ready. They already have obtained $1 million grant from the Department of Energy. They were able to line up some tax credit, and they had a gap in funding, which fits nicely when we were able to provide the grant to Grid Alternatives, who then re-granted to Spokane Indian Housing Authority. And here we are. The Children of the Sun Solar Initiative is a reality.
It is a reality, and it's an amazing project. You were talking earlier, I think, was it 23 houses and something? Well,
650 kilowatts and about 27 buildings, including tribal elder housing, community building, and government offices.
this is exciting. This is so exciting because, from my understanding, this project was a result of something that was devastating that happened to this community. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, a few years ago they had a very large fire, and what Tim Horan, the executive director, had said to me was that when they're trying to pump water, they found out that they cannot pump water without electricity. So it prompted the tribe to make every effort to gain what they call energy sovereignty. And part of that is they sought not only the grant that we gave through Grid Alternatives, they also sought grant through the National Fish and Wildlife. I actually am part of the selection committee, and so the tribe was able to receive a grant through that program. We gave National Fish and Wildlife $12.5 million, and the Spokane Tribe was able to obtain a few $100,000 grant so that they can rebuild the forest with fire-resistant plant and trees, which I think would be helpful in preventing, the growth of fuel type of trees and prevent fire, which I think is a smart thing to do. And glad to be part of that as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. So forest fires historically have been a really big part of really the way of life on the Indian reservations throughout the inland Northwest. Can you talk a little bit about why something like this would be important to other tribes throughout the inland Northwest, and maybe some of the things that they might want to look into to get going, or what do you think they should take away from something like this?
Well, preservation of wealth, but most importantly, preservation of existing home is important. And if a fire, unexpected fire, would ruin that, then they go back to zero. So I think the prevention of disaster like that would be important. Now, not only the prevention of disaster, but also the savings, the cost savings that would be incurred with a project such as this. And not to mention, Mother Earth is the giver and sustainer of life. Unfortunately, modern technology causes devastation and causes climate change as well as the greenhouse effect. And so, humans like us are the ones that cause that. But if we could do work to prevent and also, save on energy costs, why not? I am not Native American. I'm originally born and raised from the Philippines, but our history is quite similar. So I have quite an affinity with Indian country. Over the 21 years that I've worked in Indian country on behalf of Wells Fargo, I have learned about the seventh generation principle or concept. And so anything that is done today would benefit or could impact future generation. So a project like this could only be beneficial for the next generation to come.
So how might tribes get involved with something like this through Wells Fargo? How would they get a hold of you? What would they do?
So the grant that we gave to Grid Alternative, they created what they call Tribal Solar Accelerator Fund. Tanxi Claremont is the manager of that fund. So they just have to reach out to Grid Alternatives and apply from that program.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you.
We're here with Inland Northwest Native News with Joe Diehl. Joe, you're with the National Indian Housing Alliance, is that right?
It's called the National American Indian Housing Council. I've been with them now for almost 2 years. Prior to that, I spent nearly 20 years in the region. So it's one of the regions of NAIHC called Northwest Indian Housing Association. So I've been a long-term friend of the national group, and I did retire, and I got a little bored watching Netflix and YouTube all the time. No offense. And so what I did was found out about this job in DC, and I said to my wife, please and pretty please. And so she wanted to spend some time in DC too, so it's worked out.
All right.
Yeah.
So what brings you out here?
What brings me out here is that Tim was very kind to invite me out for the Children of the Sun Solar Initiative, and the national group was very, very proud to know that one of its members is doing such an interesting project. So we're very excited to be here. We're grateful to Tim and his staff for inviting us out, and any way we can support them, that's why we're here.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Joe. It's nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you. I appreciate
Nice to
it.
meet you, Jeff.
Well, excellent. It's really exciting. It's a big step in becoming sovereign. The moving away from the dependence on larger, other entities. I guess probably how does that make you feel?
Wonderful. Being a tribal leader, I think becoming a sovereign nation, moving back if we can, being able to really do what we want, how we want, and really getting back to, if we can, identify back to what our ancestors were all about, protecting the land, the water, the air, the whole environment, and being connected with it. And so that's kind of what we'd like to do. And if we can do it on our own, that's what we want to do. And so that's what this is about.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Carol.
All right.
Really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm Joe Dressler, and I'm the Human Resource Director for the Native Project, and today we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. This is our new behavioral health lobby. We just renovated it about a week ago, but we wanted to create a space for our patients that was safe and welcoming and more inviting and conducive to our plan here. So what we've done at Native Project is we've integrated our behavioral health into our medical unit. So instead of being two separate services, it's now combined as one, which provide an integrated care model for our patients here at Native Project. So the Native Project got started 30 years ago. Actually 32 years ago was when the Native Project first started. But Native Project started out as an Indian Youth Leadership Camp. And the camp was designed for Native students in the Spokane community to have a place to go to learn about their culture, to learn about education, and to learn about preventative lifestyles that prevented drugs and alcohol abuse. And through the formation of that camp, the Native Project was born. And it was 15 different visionaries who came together and said, we need to create a place for Native people in Spokane. And Native Project became that place. And so we're really excited that over the years, from a leadership camp, from after school program, a youth program, that Native Project has turned into a behavioral health building. It's turned into a medical facility. It's turned into a dental pharmacy. It's turned into all these services that are provided in Spokane, not just for Native people, but for all people. So our service modality here is sacred hospitality for all. We want people to come to Native Project and get a sense of well-being, have a choice in their healthcare, and have a place where they have providers who look like them, talk like them, and come from the same background, who understand what kind of health disparities our community faces, and that we can all be a part of that healing process together. And we're happy that we get to celebrate our 30th anniversary, and we're excited for the next 30 years. And so that's what we're celebrating today. Today we have Longhorn Barbecue. The open house was a celebration of our 30 years, but it was also a gift to our community. So we want to provide lunch. We have Kona Ice coming to do ice snow cones for our patients in our community. We have face painting. We have a bunch of kids activities in association with Spark. We have an Indian market. We have information booths. We have tours of our building. So we got a lot going on. One of the biggest misconceptions about Native Project is that we only serve Native people, but in fact we serve everybody. We have a very strong presence with the Native community. We serve over 330 different tribes, but we serve all of Spokane community. So we're open for everybody. As our philosophy says, we have sacred hospitality for all.
Look at me as a politician.
Hey, there you go. Arm in arm.
Arm in arm.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't sacrifice themselves, you know. Everything that they tried to do to us, you know, we're still here. All right, that's our double beat right there.
Here we go. You know, another thing, it's really good to see Vaughn Eaglebear here. Really good to see Vaughn Eaglebear. We'll try to get you a song next year. No, me and Vaughn always got this joke all the time we tell. It's a pretty funny one. I'll tell it next year though.
Okay, so we are out here today for Inland Northwest Native News at the SFCC Powwow, and we are with Kalispell Tribal Elder, seasoned photographer, Bob Charloe. How you doing today, Bob?
Oh, good. Just taking everything in here. It's been a long time since. Well, this is my first time to a Spokane Falls Powwow, so it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
But yet again, I went to school here in 1973.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, and I got a piece of artwork from there, and so it's kind of come full circle.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's really cool. You know, I kind of want to pull you aside and want to talk to you a little bit. I saw you out there today earlier giving out some of your work to the veterans, and I saw you had done that at the Kalispell Powwow out at Northern Quest a couple weeks ago. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Okay. My name is Robert Charloe. My parents were Emmett Charloe, Cayuga Seneca, and my mother was Rose Mary Seymour Abrahamson Kalispell. And so my brother, John, served in Korea, and I try to stand up for him whenever I can. And one of the ways that I do that is that I have a poster of a panoramic with American, with a teepee on it with an American flag on it. It's been well received. It's won some awards, and I had a poster done back a little while ago, and I guess it was just prompted because of my brother to start giving those away. So at celebrations or any other functions, if I can, and I have them with me, I usually try to give them out to veterans, make sure that they're honored just as the gentleman that received the poster before.
All right. Well, I know that I have seen those guys and they appreciate them. So the poster that you're talking about, that's the one that was the cover shot. Was that the cover shot for the We Shall Remain series? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a signature image for We Shall Remain. It was a 5-part documentary series dealing with American Indian history, starting with Tecumseh and then ending with Wounded Knee, or no, Wounded Knee. Yeah. And so I guess they did a nationwide search and they decided on my image, and then so it was chosen for that. But also, there was won a couple of awards down in Santa Fe, and so it's a for everybody else it's a pretty well known image, and for me it's been an image that's been, I guess, creatively a gift, because without that that one image, I really wouldn't have that connection with my brother, and then presenting it to veterans. Every chance I get, I'll stand up and say, this image is for you, and it was awarded to a Medal of Honor winner, and our brothers and sisters deserve the same honor. So in that vein, I present it to them because of John Hawk, the Medal of Honor winner from World War II.
Well, I think that's really cool. I really appreciate you doing that, and I'm sure they appreciate you doing that. So it's still kind of early in the season. We're just now in May. Can you talk about some of the things you might have coming up this season?
Well, yeah, along with celebrations and stuff, in June I'll be having a solo exhibit at the Gonzaga University School of Law, and that'll be for the month of June, and it'll be their inaugural exhibit for First Friday. So I was kind of taken back, but I was also honored that they asked me to be their first inaugural artist for that.
All right, that's great. What about later on? You got anything coming up later on the year?
No, we play it by ear, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
We just go where the wind blows, and hopefully there's a smile at the end of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for taking your time. It's nice to see you again, Bob.
Inland Northwest Native News, like and subscribe.